Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan Cant. I'm business manager at Focus Core Group, and I'm joined today by Michael Magee. Michael, would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Sure. I'm currently the managing director for Brita Japan. I've been in this role for about 8 years now, and we're a company that's focused on water filtration. I have a couple of our products here. Is the filtered jug. You'll find these in kitchens mostly, and we also sell filter bottles in Japan. These are filter devices you can take on the go, and they're a good replacement for single-use plastic water bottles. So the company's very much about sustainability, which was, one of my interests as well. That was one of the hooks that convinced me to join this company.
Great. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that again in a second. So just a bit, Michael, about your background. I believe you've been in Japan pretty much your whole life.
I've been here a very long time. I was actually born and raised in Japan, mostly in Hokkaido, in the north. And so I really consider this my home. I'm probably culturally more Japanese than I am American.
Yeah. And in terms of your working life, you began your career, was it in Johnson & Johnson? Was that your first?
Correct. Right out of business school, I joined Johnson & Johnson in Japan. So that was FMCG, again in the consumer space.
Right.
So that's where I really learned the ropes on consumer business.
And then moving through from Johnson & Johnson, you were at Phillips?
Yes, I was at Phillips, again working on B2C. So I was a product manager to begin with, and then managed sales and marketing for shavers, electric toothbrushes, kitchen appliances, a range of products. And that was my first introduction to working with a European company, which I found quite different than working with a US company. I found it a bit longer term focused, which again fit me quite well.
Great. So from Phillips, I think after that you moved to, is it 3M after that?
Yes, after Phillips it was 3M.
Yeah.
There I was managing stationery products, first as a general manager in Japan, and then later as a business development manager for the region, Asia Pacific region.
Okay, so these are all huge companies, right? J&J, Phillips, 3M, like very, very big global MNCs. And Brita is quite a small company. It's family owned. It's kind of it's a private owned company. So what was it that brought you in? You mentioned sustainability, but tell us about that change.
It's relatively smaller, but there are a few things that were attractive to me about the company. One is that it's exclusively focused on hydration and water. It's a fascinating idea to work with something as basic and simple as water. But if you think about it, all the different shapes and forms that consumers consume and stay hydrated. It was quite fascinating to work in that space. Also, the company's focus on sustainability was also an attractive pull. That's where my interests and the company's direction intersected. So that was quite interesting for me as well. It's the first time I worked for a family-owned business, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. So it was I jumped in without knowing exactly how that was going to turn out, but I've been quite happy with the way it has turned out. It allows me to be longer-term focused, less monthly, quarterly pressure.
Sure.
And the decisions are not always the same. Managing for the short term and long term can be different, and I think for the business it's better to think long term.
Yeah,
so I've appreciated that.
Definitely. I'd like to go back to talk a bit about sustainability, and you mentioned that sustainability was a hook for you to join this company. So what's your kind of what can you tell us about your interests in sustainability?
I've always been interested. As I mentioned, I grew up in Hokkaido, and I remember, even as a child, I would go to the mountains, to the sea, and see pristine landscapes, and then litter on the ground, people had come and left garbage.
Yeah.
And it struck me even from a young age how disruptive this is. And it's stayed with me always, that I've always had an interest in preserving the natural environment. And this gives me an opportunity to do that, as I work. Most companies try to do business as well as they can and minimize the impact on the environment.
Yeah.
Here, we have the luxury of business success is actually replacing single-use plastic. So it's not actually a trade-off. Business success equals good for the environment.
Yeah.
So it's a nice place to be.
I think so. So talking about Brita, and you're 8.5 years into life at Brita, I understand things are going quite well now, but maybe it hasn't always been as smooth as it is at the moment. So just a bit about that background.
Yeah. Currently, things are actually going very well. We've been on a growth trajectory. Sales, profits have been very good for several years. So I'm very happy with where we are now.
Congratulations.
But when I joined, actually the company had been going through some difficult times. It actually had been negative growth for several years. And so when I joined, it was also a turnaround assignment,
right,
to make turn the business around. And we don't publish results by country, so I can't give you specific numbers, but I can assure you the trajectory is actually very healthy.
Yeah. And what do you think has contributed to that turnaround and bringing the growth from negative growth to now, soaring to where you're going?
There's a few things. One is that there's some developments, external factors, developments in the market that are actually helping us. One is sustainability as a topic, and interest, especially for younger consumers, is quite strong. So, and that's really happened in the last few years. That young people being very conscientious about what they purchase. So that's been a tailwind for us.
Yeah.
Also, during COVID, people started to take more care of their quality of life at home. People spending more time at home. There was a strong interest in cooking, drinking good coffee, good tea, and that's continued. So the demand for good water at home has increased, which is also good for us. So there's some external factors like that. Internally, we've actually gone through quite a transformation.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, one is we were quite a hierarchical organization when I joined, and we've actually flattened the organization, and the objective being more open communication, that people can talk to each other, resolve issues, talk about opportunities. And so I think we have much better communication. Also, the skill sets have just continually improved as well. We try to be a learning organization, and so I see actually the team really getting better and better, steps and bounds. If I take something like key account management, for example, I would say we're probably best in class in this market anyways. And the team has really embraced change and learned a lot, I think.
Okay. What do you think are you mentioned the way that skill sets have grown and got better over the years, and you said, well, key account management is a job function where you've seen that. What are the changes that you're seeing in people's skill sets?
A mindset shift from what's best for us, how much product are we going to sell to this customer, to what's happening on the other end, how is the product presented to the end consumer, what's the end consumer thinking. And so it's less transactional, but now we partner with trade partners, and we work together to optimize. And so from let's say sell-in focus to a sell-out focus, that's been a big mindset change.
You talked about I've heard you talk about this before, this kind of speak up culture that you talked about. How was it trying to achieve that? How did you achieve that?
We engaged a consultant to help us with that as well. we did something called a cultural transformation,
Okay.
and that was one of the issues that we identified that we really need to change as a culture.
Mm.
There were issues that had been around for a long time, but people didn't really talk about it. They were a little bit shy or afraid to confront somebody on, could you do this better? Could
Right.
we redefine this process? And so, with the help of the consultant, we got people to say, look at themselves. What kind of behaviors could I be doing so that we can make change faster and we resolve issues more quickly?
Yeah.
It's sometimes a painful process to look at yourself.
Yeah.
Not everybody was happy to do that at the beginning, but as a result, I think we do have more open communication, and things are resolved more quickly.
And you have town hall meetings and sort of group meetings for sharing
Right.
feedback.
At least once a month, we do that. Everybody comes together. Every time the agenda is a little bit different, but we also try to take time to reflect. Sometimes do workshops, and collectively try to make things better.
Are you in a position to share any examples of topics that you have worked on through these processes?
Well, I can give a simple one. Is that employees were feeling, they fed back in town halls and whatnot that they weren't sure where we were headed. They said, the future for us is a little bit fuzzy.
Okay.
It would be more motivating if we had a clear picture of what management would like to be in the future.
Yeah.
So we turned it around and had a workshop on, everybody, what would you like the company to look like, let's say 12 months from now, 3 years from now? And as a management team, we can take that on board as we try to clarify the future a little bit more.
Fantastic.
And in that process, of course, some pain points come out. We're unhappy with this part of our policy. Could you do something about that? And it's we can't address everything, but it's good that it comes out.
Yeah. It's much better, I think, that employees can share what they're experiencing with leadership. Even if it may not be realistic for everything to be improved in line with what they want all at the same time. So great to hear that. So Michael, it's obviously Brita Japan is quite a small enterprise, but I guess you still have talent acquisition to take care of. Like, how in general do you find the experience of recruiting for your team?
In the past, it's been, quite frankly, very painful. Like to say, if I had to describe it in one word.
Why is that?
Well, there's as you probably know, the labor market here has been tight for a long time.
Yeah.
Especially if you consider we need to hire people at the senior level with good English capabilities. That narrows the talent pool quite a bit.
Yeah.
On top of that, as a company, we're quite strict about the profile of people that we hire. We ask candidates to do tests. We have specific profiles that we would like to bring on board. So that has made it quite difficult in the past. Also, in the past we had tried contingency hiring, where we spent a lot of time sifting through resumes and trying ourselves to make that assessment.
Yeah.
Which we're not necessarily professionals at doing that ourselves either.
Okay.
So we've had periods with long vacancies, and it's been very difficult for us.
In terms of the issues with contingency searching and seeing many CVs which don't match what you're looking for, what other kind of experiences did you have through doing that kind of search process?
One is that there was not a lot of attention paid to the cultural fit. So we would brief based on capabilities, and of course we had some cultural attributes that we were looking for as well. But frankly, not so much filtering was done before candidates came to us.
Yeah. Okay.
And so there's a bit of a hit or miss element to the search process.
Okay. So happily we have the opportunity to work together for your marketing director search. What can you tell us about that experience and that particular hiring?
Yeah, so we engaged Focus Core to bring the marketing director on board, and we used retained search for this engagement. And looking back at the process, it actually happened in a very short amount of time relative to what we've done before. We were happy that we had quite an impressive list of candidates who had already been qualified, who had already been screened, so the result is we have a great hire. We have somebody on board who has worked out very well, fits very well with the company. So we're very happy with the result of that search.
I wanted to ask something specific on the search. We had a case study stage as part of that process. Why do you think it's an important thing to do with a position like marketing director, for example?
Because we know that on the job they will need to be able to think on their feet. They'll need to be able to stand up to some pressure. It's part of the job. So putting people on the spot a little bit. We try to be nice about it, but the reality is that they will need to face situations like that, and so it gives us a good opportunity to see how they behave. Are they able to interact, talk about it without preparing everything in advance? So it tells us more about the person, as an individual.
And of course, the candidates, they have to give their presentation in English. They also have to give their presentation to the regional team, who maybe are going to ask strict questions. In terms of managing that and what you saw from our candidates, what was your experience of their case studies then?
Everybody has a little bit different approach, but it gave us insights into, for example, one candidate was very diligent about preparation in advance and obviously spent a long time preparing. That tells us that this person is genuinely interested in the position and has invested in trying to join, and that means something. Others demonstrated they're very quick on their feet. They can hold their own under any pressure. So it really tells us a lot about the candidate.
Yeah, great. Glad to hear that you got a good experience out of that. Did you have anything else you wanted to mention about the search process working with us?
Yeah, I thought I was, first of all, very happy that we had quite an impressive list of potential candidates. I think it's not easy in this market to come up with a good list, given the way things are. I was also happy that in the process, you set up time so that we could talk to candidates, not so much as an interview, but more in a casual setting, that we got to see the human side of people and get to know them as people, so that it's less formal, and that's important to me personally, that we really understand people as people, treat them that way. Also very happy that you treated all the candidates with respect, from beginning to end. That's also important to me personally, that we do that, but also as a brand, it means something. That people's association with the brand is positive, and they're treated with respect in that process. I appreciated the candid communication that we had, because we didn't sidestep issues and risks. We were able to talk about those in realistic terms, and I think that also helped shorten the process to hiring as well.
I agree.
So all in all, we had a good experience.
Thank you.
A great hire.
Thank you very much. So what would you recommend about working with Focus Core to other companies in the Tokyo market?
Yeah, I would say for senior positions, we had a great experience. I would recommend companies to look at the retained approach as opposed to contingency. For us, it's worked much better. And given the challenging environment for hiring, I think that's a good way to go. So yeah, I'm happy to fully recommend Focus Core for other companies.
Thank you, Michael. Very kind. Finally, Michael, what does the future hold for you and for Brita Japan?
Now, for maybe starting with Brita Japan, I think we have a really positive future. We've been on a great trajectory for the past few years. We have so much going for us. I think the team is strong. We have a positive mindset. We understand the market well. So yeah, I see a very positive future for the company. Having said that, we'll look at expanding the portfolio, possibly. We'll look at further strengthening the brand as well. And there's lots of upsides. So I think the business is going to do great going forward. Also looking at, I'm positive for the business, also for myself being in Japan. There's so much opportunity in this market. I think Japan is really a rich place to do business. So I see nothing but positives in the future.
Great. Okay, thank you. Let's talk about talent retention. So at Brita Japan, Brita in general maybe, how do you go about making sure that your employees stay happy and stay in the company?
One is that we continually talk to people. So we have open communication. We make sure that managers talk to their reports on a frequent basis. I think there's nothing more motivating than knowing that your supervisor cares about you and pays attention to your well-being in the company.
Sure.
So that's one thing. Yeah, we do our best to keep it an attractive working environment. I was very proud that last year we were certified Great Place to Work.
Congratulations.
A big milestone for us.
Yeah.
So employees are, in fact, that was good feedback that they are indeed happy with the way the company is. We also try to make sure that people have a clear career path that they can aspire to as well.
Right.
Sometimes challenging in a relatively small organization, but nevertheless, we need to give people a future. Otherwise, they will need to look outside.
Yeah, great. Good to hear that. Thank you. Great. Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you for your time, and looking forward to working with you on into the future.
Likewise. Thank you.